Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just officially invalidated this short-term bullish divergence because we've now grabbed this liquidity towards the downside that was building below the price of Bitcoin, which once again is now invalidating the short-term bullish divergence, alongside, of course, this slight little dip in the stock market, causing a slight little dip in the crypto market just in the shorter term, which means Ethereum is getting closer towards retesting this crucial area of support that we need to pay attention to, alongside Solana also coming in for a retest of this very important area of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a quick look at the US stock market today, and I'm recording this right as the stock market's coming to a close for the day, and we can see that throughout the trading day, we did actually see just another short-term dip. Obviously, not a huge crash or anything like that, but this slight little dip did, of course, have a slight little setback for the crypto market just in the very short-term moves. Obviously, when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, today's move is really nothing massive, but overall, once again, this slight little dip, not really great just on the day for the crypto market, but overall we're still in a bit of a sideways price range, as we can see for the US stock market. So expect something similar to this for the crypto market. Basically think of that throughout the video, keep that in mind throughout the video. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today here on the weekly time frame, we're still sitting in the red in the super trend indicator, indicating a larger bear market or a larger correction. And of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we're still playing out the massive bearish divergence, not yet been invalidated. So over the last one day, nothing's changed on the weekly time frame, and also nothing's really changed on the 3-day time frame. We're still bouncing around between this support and this resistance. We still have a lot of support at around 60,000, and also more support down here in between 53,000 to 56,000, and a lot of resistance in between around 72,000 to 76,000. And like I've been saying since over a week ago at this local low, I said at least over the next couple of weeks, it's very likely we'll hold above this 60k level. Not necessarily forever. I'm not saying this is definitely the bottom. It is possible at some stage in the future we could go lower, but at least for the next couple of weeks is what I said right down here. We're likely going to remain above 60,000 and most likely just bounce around underneath this resistance, but above 60,000, which obviously over the last 1 to 2 weeks so far is exactly playing out as predicted. And this will likely continue at least over the next few days, possibly even another 1 to 2 weeks, because overall it's very much clear that we're in a larger bearish trend, which means don't expect significant bullish momentum like this or anything like that. But we are playing out an oversold signal on the 3-day Bitcoin RSI, which means expect most likely a bit of choppy sideways price action or a very, very slight little bullish relief testing resistance like what we saw initially, that bounce testing this resistance at 72,000. But honestly, most likely from here on out over the next week or so, a bit more choppy sideways price action, which can help to reset the RSI further towards the upside, towards more neutral levels, which can technically give us more room towards the downside again later on to continue the much larger multi-month bearish trend. So basically, we're potentially in a similar situation right now in the somewhat shorter term here as to what we saw around December 2025 entering into early this year. Obviously, just a slight little relief, a lot of choppy sideways price action, a slight bullish move in the short term, but overall it's still in the larger bearish trend. And so that's still my prediction over the last one day. That has not changed once again. And if we're taking a look at the 2-hour Bitcoin price chart, what has just changed over the last one day is, of course, now the invalidation of this bullish divergence. As I talked about in my last video, right here, we had one confirmation signal when I recorded my last video to start to confirm the bullish divergence. And then since then, we actually saw a reconfirmation with a very slight lower low in the candle closes in the price, while still forming higher lows in the RSI, which is also something I talked about in my last video. And then that continued to play out over around half a day to almost 1 day worth of mostly choppy sideways price action with a slight bullish relief in between that choppy sideways price action. But then obviously close to 1 day after the bullish divergence initially started to confirm, it's now been invalidated. A matter of hours ago, obviously we saw this bearish move right here, that short-term drop following the US stock market, that slight little bearish move, of course. And we also grabbed liquidity, which I'll talk about in just a moment for the price of Bitcoin. But now that Bitcoin has broken below the previous low, not just in the price, but actually broken down in the RSI, creating lower lows in the RSI alongside lower lows in the price, price. Of course, this means there's no divergence at all here. But keep in mind, we are approaching a short-term area of support here based on these previous lows sitting in between roughly 65,000 to 66,000. So expect some support around there on the price chart, once again, based on these previous lows. But overall, once again, it's still clear that we're in a bit of a sideways price range, basically bouncing around, especially here on the 3-day time frame, as I've been saying for over a week now, since basically right here, expect a lot of choppy sideways price action as a very likely scenario. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, looking at the last 1 week worth of price action, obviously in my last video, I pointed out that we do have a decent level of liquidity building just below the price of Bitcoin at around 66.4K to 66.5K is exactly what I said in my last video. And obviously we've now wiped out that liquidity. As usual, the price usually, not always, there's no such thing as a guarantee, but the price usually moves towards where we have liquidity, especially if it's relatively close to the price, to simply wipe out that liquidity. And so like I pointed out in my last video, obviously this was the one short-term risk to potentially invalidate this bullish divergence, which has now happened. Obviously that little dip in the stock market did not help the situation in the short term. So with this happening in the stock market, a slight little dip in the short term, alongside the price simply grabbing this downside liquidity, once again, overall, those are really the two main causes, at least here in the shorter term, helping to invalidate the bullish divergence and cause this slight little pullback to take out that liquidity here. But the good news is now that we've already wiped out that liquidity, we don't really have significant levels above or below the price. We do have a small amount building at roughly 71,000 and a small amount building at around 64.9K to 65,000. So keep that in mind. Those are some important levels to watch out for on the price chart, but overall, they're not necessarily as significant as that previous level of liquidity that was building at roughly 66,500. And so basically just expect more of the same price action. We're likely going to continue this slight little pullback a little further, perhaps into this level of support that I mentioned just a moment ago. But then overall, once again, we're still in a bit of a sideways price range, which means likely at some point within the next couple of days, we will likely start to see some sort of slight little bounce around some of these points of support here, around these previous lows, to continue a little bit more choppy sideways price action, perhaps over the next 1 week or so, to help to reset this RSI out of oversold further towards more neutral levels here on the 3-day Bitcoin price chart. But I want to make this clear. I am not saying expect any massive bullish price action. I'm not saying expect a bullish reversal or an end of this bearish trend. Remember, overall, the long-term situation, the multi-month trend is still clearly bearish. We're just likely going to see a little bit more choppy sideways price action within the next week or so to further reset the RSI on the 3-day time frame. But believe it or not, you can still profit during all of this bearish price action and even during this sideways price action here by simply just trading crypto using certain strategies. So for example, you can use a short position to actually profit during the bearish price action, or you could use, for example, a grid bot trading strategy to profit during choppy sideways price action just like this. So there's still ways to make money really no matter what the price is doing, as long as the price is showing some sort of volatility, playing out some sort of volatile move, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, it doesn't matter. We can make money in both directions with longs, shorts, grid bots, etc. And if you want to know more about all of those trading strategies, stick around to the end of this video because I'll share tutorials at the end of the video on how to exactly make money in the crypto market no matter what the price is doing. But obviously, either way, if you want to be trading crypto, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And if you use the first link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, that first link below this video will take you to this page right here on the 2bit crypto exchange, which by the way is a no KYC exchange and is an exchange that I personally use myself. And simply just by making your account using that first link below the video, once again, it will take you to this page right here where you can see and you can take advantage of up to 800,000 USD worth of prizes here simply just by trading crypto. So obviously, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out and take advantage of this. Once again, first link below the video will take you to this page right here. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But if you want another option out there, another exchange that I also use, which is also an exchange very good for grid bot trading strategies for a sideways price range just like this, then in that situation, check out the second link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, because the second link below the video will take you to this page right here over on the Pinex crypto exchange. And once again, using that second link below the video to Pinex, it'll take you to this page right here where you can take advantage of massive prizes up to 100,000 US dollars worth of gold just by depositing as little as 100 USDT. And so as you can see right here, depositing just 100 USDT gets you 1 entry into this prize pool. If you deposit 1,000, you get 2 entries, etc., etc., up to these larger deposits. You obviously get much more entries into this giveaway right here, where you have a lucky draw where you can win up to $100,000 worth of gold and all of these other prizes here just by making a deposit. So obviously, if you're going to be depositing to an exchange, trading crypto anyway, definitely check this out as well. Once again, second link below the video to take advantage of potentially some massive prizes here over on Pinex. Second link below the video. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and right now, obviously, the Bitcoin dominance is still also in a bit of a sideways price range, kind of just bouncing around relatively sideways. So yes, we can see short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but overall, the current trend is still relatively flat, as we can see, which means overall, a lot of the altcoins on average will likely be performing very similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, obviously right now the price of ETH is following very similar price action as expected to Bitcoin on the 3-day time frame. Once again, with this Bitcoin dominance looking neutral, expect very similar price action for the altcoins as to what Bitcoin is doing. So basically expect the exact same thing as what I've been saying for Bitcoin, which means most likely a little bit more choppy sideways price action for Ethereum over the next week or so, just in the shorter term here. But for now, that is potentially still occurring within this much larger multi-month bearish trend, because at least for now, we've not yet confirmed the end of this bearish trend. We've not confirmed any massive bullish trend reversal, but obviously over a week ago, just over a week ago, we have hit oversold in the 3-day Ethereum RSI, which means expect just a slight little relief, most likely a bit of a sideways consolidation or very slight bullish movement, kind of like what we saw right here, just to reset the RSI, which can technically give us more room towards the downside later on to continue that larger bearish trend. And obviously, especially if Bitcoin continues this slight little pullback in the shorter term, it's quite likely they'll also impact Ethereum with a slight little pullback here, possibly coming in for a retest of this key support, which this Fibonacci level of support is still sitting at just above 1.8k, around 1810 to 1820 as key support to watch out for. We also have a bit of short-term support based on these local lows just here, sitting at just above 1.9k, around 1920 as another short-term level of support to watch out for. And if the price actually breaks below around 1.8k with confirmation, especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation, it's likely we'll see a move down towards in between 1.5k to 1.6k as the next significant area of support if we first break below around 1.8k, this level right here. And as for resistance, continue to expect a lot of resistance at just above 2.1k, especially in between around 2150 to 2250 as a significant area of resistance on the price chart. But overall, not much else to say here. Nothing much has changed over the last 1 day for Ethereum. So without wasting your time, getting straight into the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, we're still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. So obviously the long-term situation, the multi-month trend, still clearly bearish, as I've been warning about every day since all the way back up here at almost all-time highs. You can even check my videos all the way back then around end of July, early August 2025, when the price was above $3, warning about this multi-month collapse coming next, when pretty much no one else out there was saying that. But right now, obviously, all of that's still playing out as predicted. But at least in the short term, we are holding above this crucial area of support, at least for now, sitting in between around $1.30 to $1.40. And so once again, just for now, in the shorter term, continue to expect support in that area. But if the price actually breaks below that area, especially with a weekly candle close below around $1.30, in that situation, it's very likely we'll see a move at least down towards around $1.12 to $1.13 as a point of support around there. But if we break below that level, in that situation, the next significant area of support is in between 90 cents to $1. And if we're zooming into the 3-day XRP price chart, obviously right now in the shorter term, and really over the last 1 to almost 2 weeks, we've been perfectly playing out this oversold signal exactly as predicted in the 3-day XRP RSI. Obviously, as I said over a week ago, right down here, we're most likely going to see just a very, very slight bullish move, maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes here over the next couple of weeks. And once again, it's been over a week now of this perfectly playing out, and this could possibly continue to play out over the next few days, possibly another week or so, but don't necessarily expect a huge bullish trend reversal or anything like that based on this signal alone. Remember, this is not necessarily a bottom signal. So for all we know, we could ultimately go lower later on. In fact, that is quite likely considering we're still in the larger multi-month bearish trend, but just in the shorter term during the trend, we're taking a bit of a break, having a slight little relief, resetting the RSI. And so overall, expect more of the same in the somewhat shorter term. And of course, bigger picture, not changed over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at Solana, obviously, it's basically the same story here for Solana. Here on the 3-day time frame, we're still clearly in a much larger multi-month bearish trend. But just in the shorter term, over the last 1 to almost 2 weeks now, we've been perfectly playing out mostly choppy sideways price action with initially a slight little bounce, exactly as predicted, playing out an oversold signal in the 3-day Solana RSI, and also holding this area as support, exactly as predicted, in between $75 to $80. So continue to expect support in between $75 to $80, and it's looking likely that we're just about to retest this area of support again. But if we eventually, maybe after a little bit more sideways price action over the next few days, if we eventually at some point break towards the downside with confirmation, so confirming candle closes below around $75, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation, the next massive target towards the downside is sitting in between around $45 to $50. That is right. We could potentially see the price of Solana go towards $50 and hit $50 if we actually confirm a break below around 75. So once again, I want to make it clear, we've not yet confirmed the break, but considering we're still within the larger bearish trend, potentially within the next couple of weeks, not necessarily in the next day or so, but maybe in the next couple of weeks at some stage, we could soon break below that support. And once again, if that happens, we're talking about a possible 30% or more move towards the downside, which is potentially a massive trading opportunity. Not financial advice, just letting you know what I'd potentially be looking at doing myself. And so overall, once again, not much has changed over the last 1 day for Solana. So getting straight into the price of Chainlink, it's basically the same story here as well. We're still in the larger multi-month bearish trend, but just in the shorter term for over a week now, been taking a bit of a break from the bearish trend, exactly as predicted over a week ago, playing out the oversold signal in the 3-day RSI, helping to reset the RSI, playing out just a slight little bullish relief with a bit of choppy sideways price action in between, but remaining in this range above this support, but below this resistance. Obviously, this support still sitting in between $7.90 to $8.50, and this resistance still sitting in between around $9.50 to $10. And if the price eventually, maybe within the next couple of weeks, breaks below around $7.90 with confirmation, so candle closes below that level, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, in that situation, the next massive area of support towards the downside is sitting in between around $5 to $5.50. And so once again, there's potentially massive trading opportunities on the table here, waiting to happen, waiting to confirm, not yet in play, and not financial advice, obviously. But if we're simply trading a move like this, let's just say if I place a 10x leverage shorts position in this situation with a 30% move, that's a 300% profit with a 10x leverage short position in that example. Not financial advice, but just revealing how we could potentially profit even during bearish price action. So we don't have to wait and see to actually experience bullish price action to finally profit in the crypto market. Obviously, we can actually be profiting during all of this bearish price action using things like shorts positions, for example, to actually profit along the way towards the downside. And remember, if you want to do any of that, if you want to trade any crypto, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And if you use the links below this video to those exchanges, you can take advantage of extra bonuses only available using those links to certain exchanges if you want to, of course. And if you want to actually know how you can trade these sort of moves, no matter what direction the price goes, to profit at all times in the market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or shorts positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action using grid bots. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.